Hi, welcome to Storm the Field here on this great Thursday, September 22nd of 2022. I'm Mathis. I'm joined here by Rob, Trey, and Quentin. We're here to talk about a little bit of college football here for our Week 4 prediction episode. We're going to go through some of our Week 4 predictions, potential upsets, and at the end we're going to throw in an idea we heard on how to improve college football scheduling. Not sure we all agree on it, so I'm going to throw it out there and we'll get some reactions. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we're starting off with an 11 o'clock kickoff. We got Duke at Kansas. The over-under for this game is 65.5. And Kansas is favored by 7 on the dot. So touchdown favorite. Let me just choose someone. Trey, you start us off. I know you're a huge Duke fan. I'll have to hear what you say.
Yep. I am a Duke fan, but this isn't basketball, and I'm not stupid. They're playing in Lawrence, so I don't think that Duke is going to end up winning this game. But however, both of these teams are still exceeding expectations for this year. I think most of us could agree that they would have gone into this game with either no losses or or no wins or one win going into this week, and this was going to be the battle of the toilet bowl or whatever you want to call it. But Kansas has really exceeded my expectations. They've looked good against Power 5 teams, so I'm going to take Kansas this week, winning by touchdown.
Okay,
Mathis, I had picked Kansas early to win this game. I still do. I had them being 1-2 at this point, where I had Duke being 2-1. I thought Duke had a much easier early season schedule. I think Kansas is going to be one of those teams that's is probably going to far exceed their win total expectations for the year. I'm going with Kansas. Like Trey said, it's at home. It's going to be hard to measure these teams, no matter who wins, who loses, moving forward, because it's going to be against each other. So, I think that's why it's got such a large over/under, because these defenses aren't that particularly good. But I could see Kansas winning and covering the spread.
Quentin?
Yeah, I also picked Kansas. I think that everyone's been saying everyone said before the season that Kansas State was going to be the sleeper in the Big 12. It might have been their in-state rivals who's actually the sleeper. I think Kansas is definitely going to win this game, and I think that they have the ability to win a couple more games, like Tech, TCU, maybe even. I don't even know. They might. I think that they have the possibility to do that.
Maybe even the Longhorns.
Yeah,
no,
right.
That was like...
Hey, so I don't know if any of y'all know this. When we had our preseason polls and everything, I don't know. I didn't pull up our predictions, but the preseason win totals were set at 2.5 and 3, and so Kansas has already gone over, and Duke has already pushed, and so I think that's a great start for both these teams. So congratulations to what they've already been able to do. But after what we've seen so far, just eye test and looking at some of the numbers, I think Kansas just outclasses Duke. Leipold is a really good coach, and I would not be surprised if he either takes this program to a place that has not been, or goes to a different place and does very well there. And I honestly, especially with Kansas, would be shocked if they aren't competitive in most of the games they play throughout the Big 12. Because they don't look like a pushover. They handled business with West Virginia, who had just played pretty good against a ranked Pitt team in a game that some would say they should have won. And Kansas went and they beat them, and they beat a team that barely lost in a shootout against Tech. And they lost away, and Kansas went into their house and beat them by 18. And so, honestly, I think this is a mismatch. I think Kansas is a lot better than everyone thought they were going to be. And I think they cover the spread pretty easily. I had the game at 45-24 Kansas. And
Kansas could be 6-0 going into the OU game.
Who knows?
You could have two 6-0 teams. That could be the feature game of the Big 12.
Yeah, we might be talking more about Kansas than people thought Thought we were.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a? I wrote down score predictions for all these just because I had the time to. Do y'all have anything or over under
No, I
or
don't have.
No, I just looking at the spread.
yeah
Maybe like 35-24 Kansas.
yeah I think Kansas is good.
Yeah.
Maybe bowling, maybe a. Never
We're gonna
know.
be playing in the GoDaddy.com Bowl
Let's go.
later this year.
Crazier things have happened. All right, so next we
They were
got.
ranked at one point.
They're gonna be playing in the general auto insurance bowl.
Yep. All right. Well, now we got Clemson at Wake Forest, and Clemson has won. If I read this right, they have won every single game by double digits since 2012. And so they're -7, and the over/under for this is 55.5. So Rob, start us off.
Well, I went on record at the beginning of the season picking Wake Forest to win this game. I'm sticking with it. I don't think, Clemson is the favorite. I think it's going to be a close game. Obviously, Wake Forest winning will cover the spread for them, but I think they're going to win. They're at home. I think Clemson is been one of the power teams in the last 5-6 years, and I just think they're hanging on by a thread. Honestly, I don't think they're as good as the other teams who've been up there and are staying up there. Alabama finds themselves in trouble, but they always seem to find a way to win and fix and move on. I think Clemson last year hit a big bump in the road, and I don't think they're past it. So I'm going with Wake Forest. Probably winning by a field goal or less.
Okay,
Oh,
Trey.
And by the way, that would be a major upset as far as the
Oh, absolutely.
the pick'ems go this week. So
Mm.
that's my biggest upset this week.
I agree with Rob on a lot of his points, but I just have Clemson winning this week. I feel like Wake Forest played very subpar last week against a Group 5 team, and Clemson is just a lot better than what Liberty is going to be. If Wake Forest comes out and plays the same exact way, they're going to get blown out. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to bounce back after that showing last week and play tougher against a tougher team. I just see Clemson squeaking it out with maybe winning by a field goal. Yeah.
So not covering the spread.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what the spread says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably have about the same thing as Trey, just because I think that Clemson's coaching staff is just better than Wake Forest coaching staff, and I think that it might come down to like a late game scenario, and I think that Dabo is just going to be able to, his team is going to be able to execute that better. And honestly, DJ did not play terrible last week. I mean, he didn't play great, but he didn't play as bad as he has in the past, and I think that Wake Forest played bad last week. I think that they're dragging their feet. Sam Hartman just came back, so I don't know that he's 100% comfortable. We don't know what percentage of health he's actually at. I just think that Clemson has better talent on the defensive end, especially in the front.
So we are hitting everything on this game all over the spectrum. We got Rob saying they're going to win. Quentin and Trey saying Clemson's going to win, but it's going to be close. And I'm seeing something completely different. I was watching a show earlier, Cover 3. Bud Elliott threw out a stat, and I'm pretty sure this is right, but I might be slightly off. What I heard and what I took away is that against Liberty, Wake Forest, on 40% of their runs, had 0 or negative yardage. And so what that tells you is bad offensive line play. And you tell me right now, whose defensive line and linebacker core is better, Liberty or Clemson? And so what that tells me is that Clemson's defense is going to dominate this game.
Hey, you asked.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of, you ever heard of a rhetorical question? I'm still worried about Clemson's offense.
No, what is that?
I'm worried about Clemson's offense, obviously, but I think that Clemson's defense is able to make Wake Forest punt and punt and punt because they're going to make them one-dimensional. They're going to be able to send their 4 guys, maybe a linebacker every once in a while, but I think they're going to be able to throw extra people in coverage, make Wake Forest offense really one-dimensional, and I think that Wake Forest just isn't going to have enough time to put up points. And so I got Clemson. I think I got them winning by about 11. And so I don't necessarily think it's going to be super close.
You guys may be 100% right and more than likely, and I'm probably an idiot going with Wake Forest, especially with Hartman being out at the beginning of the season and not getting all the reps. But one thing I really am looking forward to is if I luck into this win, I pick up a game on all of you.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I wouldn't feel right picking Wake Forest here. Like I'd rather be disappointed that I got it wrong than like just feel like I made a pick that's not going to happen because I just can't see it. Everyone talks about how Clemson hit a huge bump in the road last year, which is true. Do you know what their record was?
10-2.
10-3.
9-3.
Oh, 9-3.
And if y'all can remember, I was lower on Wake Forest than everyone else.
Hey, but just like Oklahoma, those 9 wins didn't come easy. If you remember,
no, they didn't,
when we
but
watched
they were
a bunch
still
of those
wins.
games, there were 2 or 3 games that they really should have lost. Just like
the
OU.
Syracuse game. I remember watching that game.
But do good teams?
And I know that good teams find a way to win, but they didn't win like they used to, and that they were in some games that they shouldn't have been in. They let much worse teams hang around much longer. And you say the same thing for OU, and I'll say the main difference this year is OU looks like one of those top tier teams, and to me, Clemson just really hasn't shown it yet. Maybe they'll change my mind after this week because I imagine this is going to be the 11 o'clock game we watch. We might switch over to Duke, Kansas occasionally.
Well, like last week, Vanderbilt scored with Wake Forest the whole game. They were scoring with them the whole game. They were never completely out of it until like late week.
You mean 2 weeks ago?
The week before, yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I just is Wake Forest defense good enough? I mean, I would say that Clemson's offense is probably much better than Vanderbilt's offense. So if Vanderbilt is scoring with the whole game,
watch your tone there, son.
Well, Vanderbilt.
The great thing is, based on all these stats, I mean, thank God we still play the games because they don't always go the way that we think they should.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just can't see it happening. I didn't have it before the season. I don't have it now. I haven't been super impressed with Wake Forest so far, but that's all the time we have for this game. We need to get going. Next, we got the Josh Pate late kick tour game. We got Florida at Tennessee. The over-under for this is 62, but Tennessee is favored by 10.5, which is jarring because Florida has won 16 out of the last 17 matchups. The game's being played in Knoxville at Neyland, and so y'all gotta let me know what you think. Let's start off with Quentin.
Tennessee. And then Hooker. Hendon Hooker's really good. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, Trey.
I mean, I'm gonna have to agree with the pick that Quinn made, but I think this is gonna be I don't know if it's gonna be a shootout depending on how Florida's quarterback plays, but I think Tennessee is gonna win this one pretty not easily, but within a comfortable reach.
I agree. I think Tennessee's going to win going away. I've got them winning. I think Florida's Cinderella moment may have come and gone already this year for them. As fast as they got into the polls, I think they're going to drop just as quick. I just see, Florida should be grateful if they can keep it within 2 touchdowns by the end of the game, but I think they're going to have to put the ball in the air to keep up with them. I think it's going to be a shootout, and Tennessee just has a much greater offense, receivers, and quarterback.
Here's what my thing when it comes to the game. Florida's pass game has not been there. I heard some rumors that Anthony Richardson might be hurt after I think it was the second play of the Kentucky game, and they just haven't been able to air it out, and he has not been able to run the way he was running. They played USF to 3 points at home, and now they're turning around and playing a Tennessee team on the road in Knoxville at Neyland, which is one of the toughest environments in the SEC, and they should know something about that because they play at the Swamp. But my thing, I think this has more to do with Tennessee than it does with Florida here. I think Tennessee has the better offense, and even when their offense has struggled, like in the Pitt game, their defense found them a way to win the game for them. And I think Florida plays too slow. They're going to be trying to play super slow to keep it close, and I think that doesn't allow Tennessee to really pull away. But I think that it's a pretty comfortable game for them to be in. I see it going very similar to that Kentucky game. I just see Tennessee putting a little more points on them than Kentucky because I think Tennessee's offense is a little more dynamic. But I got Tennessee a 10-point win, so slightly with the number we have right here, it'd be I'd take Florida with the points, but I'm really right on that 10 or 11, and yeah. So
I'll
that's
tell
what I
you
have
what,
for that.
after that Kentucky loss that Florida had, if they lose to Tennessee, they're going to just be playing spoilers the rest of the way because they'll be 0-2 in conference. And they still have LSU, Georgia, A&M coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit on Florida. One of the most embarrassing things I did is after week 1 on our thumbnail, I photoshopped like Florida Gators and the Heisman. That's when we had the Anthony Richardson Heisman little segment, and he has not played up to that caliber since. And so that's a little embarrassing on my part. I'll go ahead and denounce that now. He's not winning Heisman. He won't even make it to New York. Next, we got another 11 o'clock game. No, this is 2:30. I'm sorry. We got UT going to Lubbock. Some would consider this to be their arch rival. I think they only consider them that in like Abilene and west of Abilene. And yeah, we got to get a little Big 12 action in here. And so Texas is favored by 7, but the over-under is 61 points. And so they expect this to be another shootout type game, classic Big 12 football. And so, Rob, you start me off again on this one.
Well, I've got Texas winning. I think they probably will cover, but again, especially with Tech, I just don't know what to make out of this game. Texas has a chance of beating Tech by 30, and I could see Tech, pulling out a last-minute win on this. I'm going with the Longhorns, but especially with their quarterback play, their backup is still a little injured, and it's just it's just hard to gauge, especially when you get into conference play. You just never know what's going to happen. But I picked Texas to win early on. I'm sticking with them, so I got them covering, and it could be a potential big win by Texas.
Well, Rob, Quinn Ewers is traveling to Lubbock, suited up, throwing passes on the sideline. He's not going to play. We don't want him to play because they're going to have 40. But we know that Quinn Ewers, just throwing it back and forth with Xavier Worthy on the sideline, just going to give life to the Texas Longhorns. And come on, it's Lubbock. No, come on. We really think they're going to win? Do we really think they're going to win?
They're still on the field against a 1-2 Houston team.
I'm talking to everyone. Come on, man. I pick Kansas over Lubbock. I pick Kansas over Tech right now. Come on. Tech.
Troy, go ahead.
Kansas actually beat Houston.
I could see this game being a repeat of last year. Last year, I remember watching that game and thinking, God, Texas Tech is terrible. And I'm having that same feeling again this year. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Even with Texas's backup, I feel like Texas can put up a lot of points. And with the way that Texas defense has been playing recently, I don't think that they're going to give up a lot of points. So I feel like this is going to be a big Texas win this week in Lubbock.
I actually am a little higher on Tech than y'all. And this might just be because with UT, I am just so slow when it comes to being reactionary about them. I have not moved off my 8-4 pick. I think that's still for the season, that is. And so I still think that's in the cards. They have picked every single game. Like that's the way everything's gone with their preseason. They've won the games they've won, and they lost the Bama game. And so they're kind of on track for where I thought they were going to be, but with the injuries they're having, I think it's scary, especially because you have your backup quarterback in, and so what you're going to do is you're going to lean on that run game with Bijan, and because he's a monster, but you're going to be running the ball and slowing down the game, and Tech can score points. That's one thing we know about them is they can score points, and so when you're running the ball and you're playing a team that has the ability to score, that breeds nothing but a close game. And so I think that Texas wins and they have control for most of the game. But I don't really see them being able to separate, especially when you're not airing it out as quickly as they are. Because if that makes any sense, you're just holding the ball.
Do you guys want me to interpret what Mathis just said? What
Yeah,
Mathis
go ahead.
just said is, I'm going to keep the bar low on Texas, and if they do better, I'll be happy. If they do bad, then it will be nothing worse than expected.
Yep.
I'm just
Well,
trying to be reasonable. That's one thing that you never hear when it comes to a Texas take. It's either, oh, I love them and they're going to be the best team in the country, or I hate them and they suck and they're the worst and they're going to lose to Kansas, Kansas State, and everyone else. And so I'm just trying to be real even keel with it. I'm trying to not let my emotions get the best of me.
You're a little excited, but you're reserved.
Yeah.
You have reserved excitement. Yeah.
Mathis,
I'm letting them
You-
show
you-
it. I'm not predicting it. I'm gonna let them show me how good they are. I'm not gonna talk about how good they are.
Mathis, you mentioned that Texas Tech can score, and that is true. But Houston and UTSA went to overtime, and Texas Tech and Houston went to overtime. So I'd say their defenses are all about the same level. And Texas beat UTSA by 45. So by process of elimination, Texas is going to score 80 points.
Yeah, true.
Yup.
That's what, guys. I'm
It's
picking
true.
UT is gonna
It's
win
true.
80-16 now.
I forget what kind of math they call that, but it doesn't exist in sports.
It's called the transfer of property.
It's the only logical conclusion to this argument. It is the only logical explanation for the past events this week.
So Cal lost to Notre Dame by 7, and Notre Dame lost to Ohio State by 7. So you think Ohio State will beat Cal by 2 touchdowns?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys.
Basically.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Hey, Mathis, if Tech scores 79, Texas will score 80. That's all I know.
Yup.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm just being a little reserved when it comes to it. I don't want to go too crazy, and I think
Quentin, just by talking,
That's a crazy take.
just by what you forced all of us to hear a few minutes ago has made all of us a little more stupid.
yeah, a
We
little
could not
dumber.
be any worse off after hearing what you had to say.
The only thing that Tech is going to wreck is their whole fan base, because they're all going to be,
Yeah.
they're going to wreck all
All right,
their
that's
cars,
it. That's
all their
it. We are
vehicles
way
on the way
behind
home.
schedule, so we
It's
need
gonna be
to move
group
on.
insurance on the way home from the Lubbock game.
All right, we're going from
Hit that mute button.
Lubbock to Arlington, and we're going to the Southwest Classic, Arkansas versus A&M neutral site game at Jerry World. A&M is favored by 2.5, and the over/under for this is 48.5. And so, Rob, as the resident Aggie, I'll let you start us off. Tell us what you think.
This game makes me very nervous. I feel like, Arkansas hit the big stage when they beat Texas last year, and A&M had a chance to put them back in their place, and they didn't. And this series has been a series of long streaks, and Arkansas's win streak over A&M is only 1. So I'm praying that this is not year two of a 4 or 5 year streak of Arkansas beating A&M, but I think A&M has a lot of revenge factor going back towards Arkansas. I pray that Jimbo will just let the quarterbacks play and utilize the receivers. We get our defense back up to near full strength. We get all 4 of our cornerbacks back. We get a receiver or 2. And hopefully with Max Johnson getting a lot more reps, he'll feel more comfortable behind the pocket. I do have this being, it's always going to be a close game with Arkansas. I have A&M winning 24-20. This is our tiebreaker pick 'em. So I did pick this game 24-20 A&M.
So what's that total? 44?
44.
Okay. All right. Quentin, you want to go next?
Yeah. I had a hard time picking this game just because I think that A&M is going to continue to get better on offense, but Arkansas has continuously been better throughout the year. Like they've been able to score on, I would say, probably tougher opponents. I mean, Miami, but I think Arkansas, like their run game is really strong. I think that what's his name? KJ Jefferson, is that his name?
Yeah.
Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's playing really well right now. I think that they've been able to kind of get things rolling. I think if A&M puts it in the air and they can get some momentum on the air, I think A&M has a really good shot at winning the game just because Arkansas's secondary is kind of questionable. But I'm going to take Arkansas really neck to neck. I'd say 26, 24, 27, 23, somewhere around there. I think that it's going to be a really close game, and I think that either team could win.
Good take. Trey?
I mean, I agree with a lot of the points that Quinn made. He hit pretty much everything that I had written down for this game. This is going to be a really close game in my opinion. I feel like it's going to be not a high-scoring game, but not terribly low like last week with Texas A&M Miami. I feel like either team could pull this away, though. I cannot choose a team right now, but I'm leaning more towards A&M winning this game. And I think this is going to be a really good game, and I'm looking forward to watching it this week.
All right, well, I guess that means we're split and my pick could change. I don't have a whole lot of conviction, but right now I got Arkansas winning 28-23. It's a neutral site game, and my biggest thing is I'm really concerned for Texas A&M's offense because after what I looked at with the stats last week in that Miami game, Miami's a young team, brand new head coach who is a young head coach. He's not great with situational football right now, and but Miami outgained Texas A&M, but they couldn't capitalize. Arkansas has a way better run game. I think they have more talent in the wide receiver room, and I think KJ Jefferson is not as far off of Tyler Van Dyke as some people would expect. I think KJ Jefferson's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in college football right now, and so I think they're going to be able to run. I think they're going to be able to pass. And I think Arkansas's biggest issue in football right now is their secondary. And funny enough, A&M's biggest weakness is their pass game. And so that limits their ability to capitalize on Arkansas's biggest defensive weakness. And so my issue with that is that Arkansas is pretty solid everywhere else, and Texas A&M, their entire thing has been they've had a lot of lack of explosiveness. And so if Texas A&M can prove that they can throw the ball down the field, then it's a different story, and I think that Texas A&M would win. So if you go out there and we turn the game on, and A&M's throwing some deep balls, throwing some mid-level passes, sidelines, doing some interesting things in the pass game, then I would probably switch my pick mid-game. But right now, I don't think they can do that, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm having Arkansas, the better run game.
Shown it.
They haven't shown
They
it.
got to prove it first.
Yeah, you have to show me. I believe they're capable of it, but they haven't shown me that they can. I believe they were capable of it the week before and the week before that, though. And so I'm not going to pick them to be able to do it. I'm not going to predict that it's going to happen until they've showed me that it can. And so right now I have Arkansas, but maybe this is exactly what A&M needs. Maybe they need a weak secondary to be able to feel a little bit of comfortability to be able to throw the ball deep. But that's something I can't predict because I don't know what's going to happen. So right now I'm taking Arkansas 28-23. That puts my total at 51 points.
You know what I hate the most?
Mine was 45. I forgot to say that earlier.
I'm 44, but you know what I hate the most about this game is the neutral side. I'm getting so tired of the. I think it's doing a disservice to both teams. I think A&M. You know, when you go to AT&T, it's not. It is a neutral site. It's literally 50% Aggies, 50% Razorbacks, and the crowd waves with the momentum on the field. I think it would be a much better series if A&M could go into Arkansas and fight their crowd. I think Arkansas would be better off if they could go into College Station and have to deal with the A&M crowd. I sure hope that changes here in the near future.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I think
I don't think it will. Money talks too much.
Yeah, but with all the realignment and the new TV deals and stuff like that, I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't beat playing at AT&T Stadium though. So
yeah,
I don't know. Jerry Jones has deep pockets, but
maybe you give 100% of the tickets to the home team.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, well, we are still super behind schedule right now. And so we're going to go ahead and go into upset alert. And so here is the order. We're going based off of last week's result. So I get to start us out because even though me and Rob technically tied, I picked the tiebreaker game right. And so I think that should give me the win. And I'm going to give myself the win because I gave Quentin an extra point 2 weeks ago. I gave Rob 3 extra points 2 weeks ago. And so I'm going to give myself the win here. And so my upset of the week right now, and I'm not sure if this is actually going to happen, but I think Missouri covers against Auburn. The line is 7, and honestly, even with Auburn at home, after what I saw last week, I just cannot see Auburn beating a team by more than a touchdown.
Missouri covers. That's not an upset. They're 6.5 point favorites.
Oh, I had it at 7 when I wrote it, but I think it could be a field goal game. If not, Missouri could win outright. And so I think it's a close game regardless.
Missouri is the favorite, and you're.
Are you serious?
Missouri is the favorite, even though they're the road team.
I must have read it wrong earlier.
Do you think Missouri? If you think Missouri's going to win, even if they don't cover, I don't think that's really what we would call an upset.
What line are you looking at? Because on ESPN, it says Auburn -7. They're a touchdown.
Well,
favorite.
maybe I wrote it down wrong. I had Missouri as at the time the 6.5 point favorite. Maybe it was Auburn 6.5 point favorite.
As of 1 second ago, Auburn is -7.
Okay. Well, I read it wrong. Then that is an upset. If you think Missouri's going to win, then it's definitely an upset.
I'm not sure if they're going to win outright, but I think it's a field goal game.
Okay.
All right, Rob, you are next, and then Quentin.
Well, my biggest upset is Wake Forest. I don't think they're necessarily going to cover over Clemson, but I don't want to really talk about that since we already talked about that game. My upset of the week, and it's really not a major upset, but it would be Notre Dame beating North Carolina on the road. I just don't. I think Notre Dame is not that great of a team, but I just don't see them losing 3 out of 4. North Carolina has just not been the team I expected them to be this year, and I think Notre Dame goes into North Carolina and pulls out the win. It's a 1.5 point favorite, so if North Carolina doesn't cover, then they probably lose because the only way they can not cover is to win by 1.
Missed extra point, blocked kick.
Yeah,
it's happened before. All right.
Yep.
So, Quentin, you're next, and Trey, you're last. I'm sorry, man. We'll turn it around.
The only way I could have won last week was because I had to switch a game, so I'm not really mad at it.
Hey, I like the fight. I like this game strategy.
Yep.
All right, Quentin, you're
My
up.
upset is Michigan State over Minnesota. The line's Minnesota -3. I think that it's at Michigan State. They're coming off like a really bad loss. I think they're gonna have a lot of fire under their team. I think Mel Tucker is gonna get them right for this game. But Minnesota's a very good team, and they have a really good running back. So I'm not super confident, but I think if I had to pick something, that'd probably be the game because I think Michigan's just a better team.
With you on that, Quentin, I have Michigan State winning that game.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think about that last week performance. I don't know if that says more about Washington or Michigan State because that's something we were just not on, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
I'm
you
gonna
remember what we said at the beginning of the year? Washington and Oregon are two teams that were kind of bamboozled by the Big Ten. I think there might have been a little bit of something in there when Washington beat Michigan State last week. You know,
Yeah.
especially being at home. It's like you should have taken us.
Yeah, their offense was on fire.
Yeah.
Trey, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have 2 games that could possibly be upsets. I have one that just within historically the past 3 years, this is a game that I would choose. Kansas State has won 2 out of the last 3 games that they've played against Oklahoma, and I'm just gonna go with history and choose Kansas State in that game. And another one I have is Washington State at Oregon, or Oregon at Washington State. Oregon is a 6.5-point favorite, and I feel like Washington State playing at home could possibly win that game.
I have something on that game. I actually think this is going to tell us a lot about Oregon's maturity because they started out the year with a terrible loss against the best team in the country, granted. But then they were able to have a huge win at home against the BYU team. And so we're going to learn a lot about this team's maturity to see how because we already know how they came off of a loss. So we know they can bounce back. Now we want to know if they can keep that momentum going. And so I actually have Oregon in that game. I don't think that's necessarily an upset alert. And then Kansas State, Oklahoma. I didn't write that down, but I didn't write it down because I knew one of y'all would. And
Yep.
you see this a lot when you have a Kansas State, like, for example, Kansas State lost to Tulane last week because they were overlooking Tulane for Oklahoma. So they've been game planning this week for 2 weeks now, most likely. And so it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities. I think it's actually pretty probable that Kansas State comes out and they're well prepared and they're able to win this game. And I think this is going to tell us a lot about Brent Venables. It's going to be his first conference matchup. And I'm really excited for that game. I definitely think we will all be tuned into that one. Y'all covered the rest of them.
I'd have to disagree with y'all on that one, but
I think Oklahoma's going to probably win, though.
Yeah, OU's at home. I see OU.
I just said there's a possibility of an upset.
Yeah, I'm
I
seeing
know.
the possibility.
OU's offense looked really good against Nebraska last Saturday.
It might be a while until I
What is
pick.
that really saying?
Kansas State lost to Tulane, and what's the
Yeah, but I would take at this point right now. I'm taking Tulane over Nebraska.
But what's the difference though? Like Oklahoma's offense literally put up like 50.
Yeah,
on a
I'm
Power 5
personally, I think it's possible. I think any of it's possible. I think that's a game that might be a little more possible than others, and so that's why I think it's a good game to talk about here. But personally, I'm not picking against Oklahoma until they show me a weakness, and they have not yet. And so, week 6 is a scary week. Rob, your Aggies are going against Bama.
Well,
And
yeah, I was just about to mention that to you. You said OU hasn't shown any weaknesses yet. How many teams can you say that for so far? OU, I would say. Who?
Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia. But I would not put Alabama in that list. And I'm not saying that's going to give A&M an advantage.
Quinn Ewers.
Well, okay, so
let's talk about week 6 at week 6.
Yeah, let's leave that for that.
But right now, what teams do you think are pretty much invincible? Mathis, you said OU hasn't shown you anything. Georgia, I would say those three teams right now. Ohio State, I would put them in there. They had a tough game
Michigan.
against Notre Dame.
Michigan.
Yeah, I said
Michigan has looked really good.
Michigan.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why I don't think OU has to prove anything to me. It's the reverse of the Texas thing. To me,
Yeah, I
just,
agree. I'm not gonna pick against them until they
they're on a
show
roll
me.
right now.
Yeah, they
OU
gotta
just had to
show me
anything
the
telling
weakness.
me that they're not going to be the Big 12 champions again.
Who's going to lose their first game, OU or USC?
USC looks good too, but I think USC loses first. Wait, it depends. It depends on when USC plays Utah.
No, I don't know. OU plays Texas week 6, and that's a possible loss. And USC doesn't really have any games I think that they shouldn't be heavily favored in. Oregon State will probably be a tough opponent, but then they have Arizona State and Washington State. I just don't think those teams are.
I hope both those
par.
teams
Yeah.
miss the playoff, but barely.
USC plays Utah the week after Texas plays OU, I believe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if
And honestly, I think USC could win that game. But
guys, I hope both of those teams miss the playoff by that much and we get a bowl game. Lincoln Riley having to play OU in a
That
New
would be
Year's
great.
6 bowl. Oh,
Yeah.
that's storybook. They got to make it
wins.
happen.
What if they both go undefeated though and play in the college football playoff?
That's what I was going to say. I think a lot of people have them in their own top 4 playoff contenders.
One of them's
They
going to
could very
play
well
Georgia
meet
and the other is going to play Alabama because then they want Alabama and Georgia to
and
play
you
in the
know
national
what?
championship again.
Mathis, that's
But what if
right.
Alabama gets a game?
They don't want Georgia and Alabama to play each other in the first round, but everyone's
don't
going to
want-
want. But
Oh,
on
you-
the other hand, everybody's going to want. If USC and Oklahoma are in the playoffs, that's going to be a semifinal game because they're not going to miss. They're not going to miss that being a game played.
And we've
At
already
this
seen
moment-
Alabama, Georgia 2 or 3 times in the college football playoff now.
All
So
right,
it's not
hey.
really as big as Oklahoma,
Yeah.
USC, in my opinion.
Let's go ahead
I'm
and
saying
get.
it right now. If OU and USC are in the playoffs, they're playing each other in round 1.
Let's go ahead
At
and
this
get into
moment,
these
I'm
other matchups
not
befo-
picking
so we can
Alabama
kind
in the
of
playoffs.
close out the show. So tonight, just in a little bit, we have West Virginia playing Virginia Tech. I don't think this
They're
game.
playing right now.
Oh, they're already playing.
Yeah,
Oh, who
West
do you
Virginia
have?
knows where-
West Virginia's up 3.
I have West Virginia.
I had West
I
Virginia.
have West Virginia.
All
I
right.
have Virginia Tech.
I just don't think
Oh,
West
okay.
Virginia, JT Daniels is going to lose, go
Yeah.
2-2 this week. Or
This
go
is
1-3
my
this week, I
upset
mean.
games of the week. I've got Virginia Tech winning at home.
All right. Well, let's
I
hurry
have
up so we
Virginia
can
Tech,
actually
too.
watch the game.
Hey, so
Virginia,
real quick,
Syracuse.
who has Virginia Tech?
Huh?
So it's 2-2.
I
Yeah,
have
split.
West Virginia. All right.
Okay.
Do we all
Good.
have Syracuse?
I picked Syracuse.
I believe I do.
All right. What about South Florida? USF played a close game against Florida, and they're going to Louisville.
Louisville.
Yeah, Louisville.
I have Louisville also. What do y'all have for Missouri Auburn? I have Auburn in a close win, but it's definitely an upset
Auburn.
watch.
I have Auburn.
Baylor, Iowa
I
State.
think I have.
I got Baylor.
Baylor.
I have those two.
Baylor. I would not be shocked if
Baylor-
Iowa State won that game though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TCU.
What about the battle for the
SMU?
Iron Skillet? Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to say that.
I got TCU.
I do too.
Yeah, I did too. I just wanted to
I'm a
ask.
homer. I'm a homer on that one.
Go Frogs.
Rob's wife actually made him pick TCU.
Oh, I can't believe we haven't talked about this game.
She's standing behind the camera with a gun. She's like,
Hey,
she just walked out.
Wisconsin at Iowa State or Ohio State. Sorry.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
All right.
Wisconsin.
Upset alert.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
Upset alert.
Do not say
Vanderbilt
it.
at
Do not say
Bama.
it. Shut it.
What do you say?
Vanderbilt, Alabama.
No.
Nah, I got Bama.
I'm not answering that question. We already
I'm not
know.
even
Not
gonna give you,
Alabama covering. I'm sorry.
I'm
What's
not
the
even gonna
spread?
give you the time of day.
What's the spread, or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter.
I think Vanderbilt season is over after this game. I don't think they're going to have very many players surviving this game.
Hey, they play Missouri still.
Right, but they have to play Alabama first.
That's okay. Yeah, Rob's over here like, oh, I got Bama plus the spread, and they're like, well, what's the spread? He's like, does it matter?
Spread is 38.
That's
see the spread
insane.
minus 40 and a half.
All right.
Well, when I wrote it down, it was 38, so it's just getting worse.
Is there any other games y'all want to know about?
No.
Okay. Well, we're
Not
going to
really.
get into this last segment here. We're not going to spend too much time because we're trying to get out of here. So let's keep it brief. I'm going to explain something. This last week on the Joel Klatt Show, he had a proposition to fix non-con games. And I know there's some logistical issues, but I'm going to go ahead and lay out kind of the...
Wide open.
I'm going to go ahead and lay out kind of the premise of the argument. It says since there's a 12-team playoff, teams are going to have more room for error, so we should get rid of the cupcake games. They should not be playing FCS schools in this argument. And so what would this have is everyone would have to play a nine-game conference schedule with 3 non-cons. And you have Power 5 and G5 conferences. Both are going to be split into upper tier and lower tier, depending on how you finished in your conference the previous year, based on win and loss record. And so a Power 5 Tier 1 would end up playing a home and away game against two other Power 5 Tier 1, and they would host one G5 Tier 1 team. And so what this would end up having is you would have Alabama would play USC at home and then go to Ohio State, and then they'd maybe host, what would it be, UCF or Cincinnati right now. That could be a potential matchup. And so you'd have those upper tier games. And then for G5, it'd just be the inverse. You would have one home game, one against a G5 opponent in your tier, and then away game against the G5 team in your tier, and you would go to one Power 5 team. And it'd be the same thing for Tier 2s would play Tier 2 on the other way for Power 5, G5. And so you'd go into a pool and it'd be randomly chosen. And there are some logistical issues, so let's get into them. Rob, what's one problem that you have with this?
Well, first off, things like this don't ever happen unless someone gets the ball rolling and starts talking about it. And it's not feasible right now, but who knows? This could morph into something in the future. But I would say, there's going to be a lot of resistance from the athletic directors and board of regents to fight this because it's going to interfere with how they lure teams to their home stadium and with incentives to play. But one thing, and I just thought of this right now, this only works if you have the same number of Power 5 and G5 teams. And, let's say we have 64 Power 5 and 60 G5. Well, you're going to have 4 teams that are not going to have a G5 team to play.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's a small deal that can be overcome probably, but I think the biggest thing for football overall is it eventually will kill the FCS because they're just they're not even going to have G5 teams to play.
I'd agree with Rob. I mean, these FCS schools are making a living off of playing these G5 and these Power 5 schools. Like, if you take these games off, if you take these games off their schedule, they can't pay the electricity bill. Like, they're not gonna be able to have a football program. And I would hate to see a bunch of schools lose a bunch of talent. And where does all the talent go? Like,
what you would end up getting, you'd get an influx of FCS teams into the G5 category. Probably you'll get a push that way.
Yeah,
I think there would be more teams moving down than up, and I feel like if that happened, it would create a Division 4, and there would be a D1, D2, D3, D4, and across every sport. And I just don't think it's good for the NCAA.
Here's a problem I had it with personally. What would you do with rivalries outside your conference? Like how
USC,
would
Notre Dame.
how would Florida play Florida State or Miami? Like where would you
Well, how
fit
would
that
Notre
in?
Dame play games?
Yeah, I mean Notre
What
Dame
do you
would.
do with the independents?
I think that this would eventually bring in BYU is not going to be independent, so you really only have one issue to worry about, and that's Notre Dame. And
UConn. Oh,
in this situation, they'd probably end up to the Big Ten most likely. And this is just a hypothetical. This is not happening. But
And
just
I
for
think
argument's
things like
sake,
this are going to be one of the reasons why Notre Dame may eventually be forced to join a
yeah.
conference.
But on the other end of it, what are some things y'all like about it? Because there's not only negatives to it. So I would like to know what are some things that y'all like.
I mean,
I just think of racing that cupcake game, having good games to watch every week, rather than watching Alabama Week 15 play Mercer and destroy them by 70. Whereas we
Yeah.
get a better
Yeah.
game, and we know what a team looks like completely in its entirety, because they play across the spectrum every like tiered team that there is.
The writers would have more data points, better data points to make
Yeah.
cross conference comparisons.
Yeah, you'd have a
It
lot
would
better
also give
power
A&M
ranking
an extra
system.
win. It would give A&M an extra win because we wouldn't have to play Appalachian State anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, that's going to be the new joke. No more Texas lost to Kansas. Because
Yep.
Kansas is better than App State. And just for everyone watching, I don't know about these guys, but personally, I'm not huge on expanded playoff, like a 12-team playoff, any of that. Obviously, it's coming. I don't have to like it. Personally, I think it lessens the impact of individual games. Like, I don't think that Ohio State, Michigan holds the same weight at the end of the year if both are already going to make the playoff. Like, you're talking about seeding now. You're not talking about who has an opportunity to win a national championship. So I like the exclusivity of it. And
Matt, to expand on that, last year's Michigan Ohio State game, the winner went to the playoffs.
and the loser didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and what they would be fighting for in a 12-game playoff is, well, how bad do you want that higher seed?
Yeah.
You know, we're both going.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. I think it's interesting to give more teams a chance into the playoffs, but I do fear that it would lessen the importance of the regular season schedule.
That's literally the best part is the week in, week out. You don't have this where you like. I think, especially in college football, as a student or whatever else, you treasure those home games. You get like 6 or 7 a year, and so when you lessen the impact of that, you lessen the impact of the tailgate you go to. I think that's a big deal, and so I don't think that's something you can just overlook, especially for teams that don't really have a shot at making the playoff. You could say, oh, well, their games don't matter. It doesn't have playoff implications. And so I think that can be a little disappointing for those teams, and I don't like that's how this direction is going. But if you are going to force us to go that way, then at least give us some better non-con games. Because if I have to listen to Alabama play Mercer, for example, but then they're like, oh, well, who's the best 12 teams in the country? It's like, well, if Alabama can lose 3 games and still make the playoff maybe, then at least let me see them play like Ohio State or Michigan or USC or something fun, because then you have more ranked matchups early in the year. Like you have, it essentially be like bowl season, but before conference play, which I think would be awesome. And another positive I have about it is think about the revenue.
On the 12-game playoff, the 5 conference winner. How do they determine the 6th conference winner? Is it from the
highest ranked group, the highest ranked top 6 conference winners? So if there's a American and a Sun Belt team that is ranked higher than a Pac-12 team, the American and Sun Belt team get over the Pac-12 team with all other 4 Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I mean, so you got the top 5 conference winners. Explain to me that the 6th seed would be the conference winner of the highest ranked conference winner of a G5 program.
No,
it's literally just the top 6 ranked conference winners.
It'd be the lowest ranked conference championship winner.
What if a conference championship winner isn't ranked and that's like the 6th team out?
Well, they do
I
the
like the
power
first-
rankings past 25. They just don't.
Broadcast it.
Yeah, it's the top 25. Texas.
It's pretty unlikely for one G5 conference winner not to be in the top 25 anyway.
Yeah.
So that team would be the 6th seed, right?
Yeah, it doesn't
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
It doesn't even
Well, but
necessarily have to be only
six-
5 Power 5
They would
teams.
be the 6th team picked as an automatic team.
Yeah, there's 6 automatic
Unless-
bids.
Yeah.
There could be 2. There could be a Sun Belt and a Mountain West team that are, and those might be the 5th and 6th lowest. Like, and you could kick the Big 12 out. The Big 12 might not get an automatic bid in that
So you're
situation.
saying that it's not the top, it's not the Power 5 plus 1.
It's just the top
Or is it
rank.
at large, pretty much.
Six
At
of
large
the
per
10.
conference.
6 of the 10.
It's the
Conference.
six out of the 10
Oh,
highest
okay.
ranked, and then
Oh,
6 at large.
At that point, we might as well play all 10 in the playoff. I mean,
I got you.
They're
Okay.
just gonna keep complaining about it. I'm just kind of done with the playoff talk. I want my regular season. Keep your playoff. Take it. I don't care what you do with it. Just don't let it impact how I watch football every Saturday, because that's my favorite thing to do. And that is all the time we have for you today. We hit the over big time on the show length, and so we need to get out of here. We really appreciate y'all watching. This has been Storm the Field. We'd like it if you like and subscribe to the channel. If you email us any questions, or we like doing these little hypotheticals, and so email us, put it in the comments, any of the socials, DMs, anything like that. We'd love to do a segment like this on every one of our shows. Just spend 5-10 minutes talking about something interesting, or push it back, put it in the mailbag, and do it in the off season. And so that's everything we have. This has been me, Quentin, Rob, and Trey. We really appreciate it, and we will see y'all next time in our Week 4 reaction episode on Monday. Bye.
Bye, guys.